Welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. I'm Alice Li Hagen. Today's show is actually going to be a first of a series about our Scheidler alumni at Scheidler College of Business. They're the movers and shakers of our community, and they do things that affect our island state. My guest is Doug Inouye. He is the Corporate Counsel and the Director of Contract Services at Queen's Health Systems. Well, Doug actually has 4 degrees, and I will talk about that in our interview. Let's see. Doug graduated from our Executive MBA program at the Scheidler College of Business in 2003. Doug, welcome to our show, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, I've known you for the last 7 years, and because of this show, I started reading more about you, as I mentioned to you earlier. You have 4 degrees. You graduated with a journalism degree, and an associate degree in Japanese, JD, and then the last one is the Executive MBA program. Now, of course, very recently, I think every week we've read, or I come across stories about the cost of higher education. They talk about how the cost is spiraling, and there's actually a film director from Silicon Valley that directed a film on Ivory Tower, and he even pronounces that a lot of our American institutions are at a breaking point. But at the same time, I know that you are so committed to education. You've been a great support of the University of Hawaii. So tell us, is university education a good investment?
It sure is, hands down. And no matter what the pundits say or critics say, education, and it can take many forms, is still important, and it's still king. Knowledge is power, basically. And just I'll throw a stat out from the National Center for Educational Statistics. In 2012, median earnings for a person with a college degree was $46,900, and this is for young adults. For a high school graduate, it was $30,000, and for a non-high school person, $22,900. So when you compare these medians, I think, and you can slice and dice any way you want, I think it'll still show that a college degree is really worth pursuing.
Okay, I'm going to push that a bit. I work in an education institution, so of course I believe in university degrees too, but then at the same time, they're saying that the debt is over $1 trillion, which is higher than our credit card debt in the US. So what can be done?
I wish there were a magic bullet, but I haven't studied that, deeply enough. Mm-hmm. But to me, commonsensically, something has to give, and it'll be a matter of pricing, and if it's pricing, it'll be, of course, bringing down the costs. Because revenue side, there's only so many people and so much money that can be created by the economy, and really for parents at one time like myself, well, really now, trying to finance education for a child is equivalent of, at least in Hawaii, buying a piece of property like a house. Something eventually will give. I think our economy, our society adapts and adjusts, and I think that's one great thing about America is we have the free. There are not as many restrictions, let me put it that way, on being able to adapt and adjust to changing times. And so the high cost of education, I think, will be addressed eventually, whether it's a breakdown in our educational system or the actual educational institutions. I don't know, but again, if the issue is whether it's worth it pursuing an education, it still is.
Okay. Well, you know, you keep alluding to the cost of education, and I guess that's across the nation, the labor costs and the reduction in subsidy from government. Now, but maybe tying it into your lifelong pursuit of education, maybe you can shed some light based on your experience. So tell us about your academic journey, maybe starting off with how you decide to become an attorney.
Okay, sure. And there's lots of different ways to get to where you want to go, your ultimate goal. And in America is such a great place. There's so many opportunities for you. You could be dirt poor and still end up with a law degree or an MD. And so for me, I guess the journey started way back. I actually started delivering papers when I was in the first grade and helping out the family. Then helped out at the fruit and vegetable stands and the fish markets down in Oahu Market when I was in the latter part of elementary and intermediate, and then to McDonald's, then on to the hotels, working as a night auditor while going to school and working at Kaleo. But my eyes on a law degree were set back when I was maybe 6th grade, watching a movie called 12 Angry Men, the original with Jack Klugman and Fonda and those guys, and really seeing that it's amazing how people can see things from a different light, and the incredible power and responsibility that attorneys and the court system have in helping to bring about justice. And that it fascinated me. Back then, attorneys were held in high esteem, and you had to, really work hard to get there. You needed to go to school. You still need to.
Right.
It still is a tough climb, and a lot of things you have to do. But with that in mind, over the years, as my final goal, I went through and figured out how to finance it.
Well, you said that it started with you being 6th grader, you watch a movie. Did you ever waver? Did you ever had second thoughts about being an attorney?
Yeah, I thought of other careers or other things I'd wanted to do, but in the end, ultimately, in the back of my mind, it was, I'd love to be an attorney. And our family situation, we didn't have much money. We had 9 kids in the family, and each of us had to, it's kind of our family was kind of the reverse way. The kids would support our parents in the church and stuff, as opposed to our parents supporting us through school. So I went through school on scholarships, a lot of scholarships. Law school at Boston College was half a scholarship, and I have to thank them so very deeply for giving me the opportunity. The University of Hawaii, I got a lot of Pell Grants and whatnot to help me through, and for books and whatnot. In Japan, my Japan program was through the church, and they picked up everything. And so that is part of why I like to give back to the community. I work hard at trying to help out when I can.
I'll hold off on the community
Okay.
part.
Sure.
But what did your parents think about your academic pursuits? And since you came from a family of 9, are your siblings equally driven academically?
They're driven in different aspects. Like my younger brother, the youngest in the family, I'm second from the bottom. He took over the church. My father started the church, Tenri Kyo Church here, and so he's taken over that. But he also works at Pearl Harbor. And the brother immediately above me works for Toyota North America right now. He was at one time on Wall Street and in Japan with Merrill Lynch and Ernst & Young. So he was a CPA from Scheidler, did very well at Scheidler, and got recruited to the mainland. So he's currently in LA. Sister ended up started at UH, ended up getting her nursing degree from USC. She lives in, is retired already in LA. Oldest sister, who really helped all of us along, didn't get to go to college, but I guess she made sure that the rest of us did. And second oldest sister was a teacher, University again of Hawaii, College of Education, and taught. She was the head of the Japanese department, language department at Midpac for a while. Then got married to a Colombian, a Japanese Colombian, South American Olympic wrestler. Okay.
Wow.
Another story in and
I
of
know.
itself.
I can
but
do another story about your
yes,
family.
Yes, there's we got an eclectic family, but that's that's the gist of my family. Well, and of course my dad, the patriarchy, he is unusual in that in Japan when he grew up, not many people got the opportunity, had the opportunity to go on to a higher education, but he received the undergraduate degree from Aoyama University. And with that, I think a lot of us, at least most of us in the family, felt, education was a no-brainer. We're going to go, you're going to go to, on to, and for me, I thought, part of it was trying to make them proud and stuff. I said, okay, I'll go and keep going. But this is my dad when I told him, I'm thinking of going to law school. I figure he's going to be, oh, great, everything is, this was his reaction. Oh, why you want to be an attorney in Japanese? I said, because the challenge, and so I thought, oh, okay, well, all right. And then that evening, my mom comes over to me and says, he's like, in Japanese, stoked. You're going to go to law, but he didn't. My dad, I guess he had a certain image of attorneys, and being educated the way he was, I guess he didn't see it as such a prestigious thing, or a good, a strong, I guess in comparison to like medicine, or even doing more of the religious stuff. But anyways, but it was kind of funny because I get feedback from my mom as to what really my dad was thinking sometimes, but figuring that, yeah, that's dad.
Are you the only attorney in the family then?
Yes.
Okay. This is fascinating. I thought, okay, this is a successful alumnus of our college, and I didn't realize this is, well, you're actually talking about a successful immigrant family.
Yep, that's basically what it was. We, I think when my dad came over with mom, my older sisters were born in Japan, but the rest of us were born here. And my mom used to tell me they were living in a 6x9 room and cooking miso soup and coffee in tin cans on sterno when they first came over. And then they went out and they actually propagated and had followers. And from there, from scratch, a little house in Kalihi, right next to Tamashiro, across the street from Tamashiro Market, and then moving a couple times, and with on the strength of the church and everybody's work, building a church in Kaimuki.
That's amazing. Okay, coming back to you then, why did you decide to go to Boston University?
It's actually Boston College.
I'm sorry, Boston College.
The BC people would really have an issue. No, I'm just kidding. There is rivalry there. But Boston College, because back when I was in undergrad, I had been thinking, okay, law school, and we didn't have the search tools or research tools like the internet back then, right? But I'm standing in line for my financial aid check at just outside of Campus Center, that little, I don't know what's in that building now, but I'm standing in line and there's this poster, and I have a copy of this exact poster in my office, because it reminds me of how I got there. And it says Asian Americans in law, and Boston College, opportunities for law school, contacts, so on and so on. And I said, well, I didn't realize that Boston College even had a law school. So I do some research, make some calls, find out if there's local grads, and sure enough, and I find out it's a great, very underrated school. Now it's actually well rated, and but at that time I said, God, you know, and what a place to go to, you know, Boston, and figuring there's at any given time maybe 250,000 students in Massachusetts. So figuring that's where if you want to study and really mix minds with people, that's the place to do it. And so I checked into it and got the half scholarship and everything and said, okay, I'm going.
So were there a lot of Asian Americans in that program when you went?
Not a heck of a lot. It was actually, the ratio was one of the best of all law schools, actually. The Asian in particular mix, but also African American and Latino American. Boston College is a very, in that respect, very progressive. We had a great dean by the name of Daniel Cocolette. Fantastic man, always supportive, and there were a good number, and maybe 3 or 4 people from Hawaii at any given time.
Oh, so how big was your cohort then?
Meaning the classes or the class. The general classes were about 150 to 160 students actually.
Wow, so 3 or 4 out of Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah. And so the total student body at any class coming in was about probably 250 to 270. Yeah, 270 about there. And so yeah, amazingly 2 or 3 would be from Hawaii, but it's because we had strong couple of strong graduates long ago from Hawaii, and one in particular who was a strong supporter. His name was Kinji Kanazawa, and anytime he came to town, the dean would say, "Doug, you know, yeah, come out, gotta, you know, talk with Kinji and everything." But the thing is, Kinji was so busy; they wanted him everywhere that I never even got to meet him. But I knew he was a legend. He passed away, sadly, but he was one of the first to help form the condo law, I think, in Hawaii, which is patterned, I think, after the Puerto Rico's. It was cutting edge at the time. This whole concept of creating condominiums and then separating the lease from the fee, etc.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you actually ever get to meet him then?
Yes, when I got back, I had to. I told myself, you got it, because we were part of his legacy. Because I think, in deference to him, the law school said we will make a commitment. I don't know for sure, but I suspect there was a commitment to have at least 1 or 2 Hawaii people, because he was really strong on Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is Boston College like right now? I mean, at least with the Faculty of Law, do you keep track?
I've talked with some of the alumni people here and there. There's actually a gentleman there who's the head of the library services. I'm not sure if he changed his position, but he's from Hawaii, Mike Mitsukawa. And he's very good. He's still big on Hawaii, and he gives me he did at least give me some updates off and on, and so it's grown. They still have a number. I think their numbers are still as good or better in terms of minority representation. The faculty, as I've watched who's there, a lot of the, I guess they're on their last years with them, but were the professors I had, which is a testament to the institution that they can keep these good professors, because a number of them before, as I remember, they would get hired away by Harvard, Columbia, and which was what happened. I was cross-registered for law classes at Harvard, and one of my professors taught both at Harvard and Boston College. So I'd go over to Harvard and attend his classes with some of these Harvard students, and it was a great experience too. But he ends up getting, either he went to Harvard or he might have been hired away by Columbia.
So how many years was this program then?
The law school is 3 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after you went through the law school, well, obviously you're an attorney, but right now. But did you have any change of mind in terms of when you first went into the program?
did things change for you? Or did you have a
Yes.
different perspective after
Sure,
the program?
a totally different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the practice of law was really changing, and
Mm.
it has since then. But initially, I used to think before law school, I thought, okay, being an attorney is always going to court. I thought of the criminal law stuff, Perry Mason, etc. And at the time, I guess LA law was becoming big, and you go, wow, of course, TV drama is about 5% of what really goes on in a law firm or behind the scenes. A lot of it is drudgery, a lot of it is really knocking heads with the other side, etc., especially in litigation. So but I still felt that, being an attorney is litigating, and litigation was really where it was at. But after coming out of law school, I realized, well, you can effect change, you can be a great attorney by also doing transactional work, and you have the two, litigation versus transactional, either preventive maintenance or damage control. And so realizing that I could actually accomplish and give back to the community in both capacities. And so initially when I came out, I ended up doing litigation. I have to thank the firms that had me, Sid Ayabe's firm, Jack Dwyer's firm, then onto the AGs with Margie Bronster, and then to Queens in-house. But so I'd done both sides, the litigation aspect and the transactional business side.
So how did you end up being at Queens then?
At the time that I was at the Attorney General's office, Margie Bronson was my boss, and my immediate boss was Ruth Tsujimura, a terrific attorney and human being. And so she was coming up, Margie was coming up on her confirmation for her second term, 4 years. Of course, the whole Bishop Estate issue surfaced, and she spearheaded really the legal side effort and the fight. And I had thought, okay, I can do another 4 years. My commitment was actually for 2 years. And part of it was, okay, my dad said, yeah, it's okay to make money and everything, but you give back. I said, okay. And initial commitment 2 years, I got so much experience, and it was, I felt like I was really making a difference in particularly in employment law in Hawaii. That I thought, okay, I could, I went on for another 2 years. Then I thought, okay, maybe I'll continue on. But then Margie did not get confirmed, and which was a stunner. So then I thought about it, and my immediate supervisor, Ruth, then left to be counsel at the University of Hawaii at UH. So I thought, okay, well, I better start thinking about making some money to pay back some of my loans and stuff, what I did have. And so as I was looking, there were opportunities in Japan, Seattle, San Francisco, and a lot of dollar signs and yen. But then I get a call from someone and says, hey, got an opportunity, and we worked together, and would you like to apply? They're going to be considering. I said, sure. And it turned out to be the Queens, the Queen Emma Foundation. And it's probably the best thing in terms of my legal career that I've done. I had the opportunity to help shape a lot of our community, I think, from the business and now the healthcare aspect.
Now, you mentioned the business side. I think that's a great moment to start talking about your, I guess, your final degree at the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business. What made you decide to pursue an MBA degree after you've got your JD? That's quite a lot, I guess, at that time. Yeah. Why is there an interest in the business side?
Well, it was a glutton for punishment. No, actually, it's and I'll be very frank. It was very challenging. It's a tough program, but what you get out of it is worth every ounce of sweat blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it. And for me, part of it was Robert Oshiro, at the time the head of the Queen Emma Foundation, and said, Doug, this is a great program. And we've had other graduates from that program in our company. And as I looked, I said, yeah, well, this is a commitment. It's a lot of work because it's after hours work and weekends, etc. But figuring that, well, I went to law school and this can't be that much more difficult, and figuring what I would gain out of it and how that would help Queens and myself, just dove into it.
So let me go back to your comment. You said it can't be worse than the law school. So how was it?
It was very good. It's nothing, you got to go through law school. It's like, I guess, medicine. You have to go through it to really understand or appreciate what other attorneys have gone through, because the first year is even if it's a variation of the Socratic method, the intensity amount of study you have to put in is quite a bit. And then usually just about November or so, you think there's this silence while you're in like midnight in the law library looking up a case or something, and you think, what am I doing? Why am I torturing myself? I could go into business or medicine. But then you come to your senses and you say, well, no, I want this, and you go. And so as just a side comment, my perception is that if you're going to go to law school, you take a little time off to do work and stuff, and really decide whether you want to go to law school, if that's what you want. And it gives you a little more maturity. I think for kids who go straight through undergrad and law school, unless you're super focused and you're that type, which most people aren't, I think, then you may end up being, okay, well, not as appreciative, and you don't have that much skin in it. That it'll drive you. For me, part of it was the fear of, I'm gonna have to pay back, even if this is half a scholarship, I'm gonna have to pay a bit of this back. And the other part of it is, I'm not gonna, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts, I'm gonna succeed at this.
I guess that's a question that I was going to ask you, because when you went to get your law degree, you were much younger, and then you took time, you came back to Hawaii, you started your career, and then it was a while before you went back to school again. How difficult was it to adjust?
Good question. It was a bit, you got to really crank down, but if you put your mind to it, I think you can do almost anything you want. And for me, it was a matter of the math and stuff. I had to really crank down again. I used to be, when before high school and stuff, I used to like math, or I was pretty good at it, but decided, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Well, I had to kickstart that part of my brain again, and get into it. It's that desire or the drive that, you want to do this and you want to learn. And you got to have that, I want to learn this. Not, I'm going to go through this just to get the degree and use it for whatever. It's, I want to learn. I want to know and figure out how to apply this and use it. It was at, how old was I? 41, I guess. And it does, for me, sleep. Another thing is, I don't need much sleep. I sleep maybe 5 hours, 5.5 hours a night, and that's enough for me. Always thought of sleep as a little bit of a waste of time because there's so much to do.
I see. You know what? Let's take a break right now, and then when we come back, you can tell us some of the memorable experiences when you were going through the Executive MBA program.
Sure.
My guest is Doug Inouye, the Corporate Counsel and the Director of Contract Services at Queens Health Systems. He is also one of our alumnus from our flagship Executive MBA program at the University of Hawaii Scheidler College of Business. We'll be right back. We'll talk some more.
Okay, this is ThinkTech, and one of our favorite shows is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. And it goes 4 to 5 every Wednesday right here from ThinkTech in Pioneer Plaza at the core of downtown Honolulu. And my co-host is Ray Starling from Hawaii Energy. Ray, do you like the show?
I love the show. It's great to see all the new people coming in with new ideas about how to save energy, get us off of fossil fuel, and that's what it's all about. So Hawaii, the state of clean energy. See us on Wednesday afternoons at 4 o'clock.
I knew he'd say that. Thanks, Ray.
If you're just joining us, my guest is Doug Inouye, alumnus of our Executive MBA program at the Shiloh College of Business. Our conversation has been about his academic journey through law school and at the business school. Now, Doug, before we went for our break, you were telling us about, I guess, the challenges of doing a program at, I guess, later on in your career, but you said that you have the mindset to pursue it and to ensure that it's successful. Tell us, what is some of the memorable experiences?
Oh, I could go on forever, but let me start at the beginning. The residence week, or now I guess it's 3 to 4 days at Turtle Bay or whatever place it is, and you get to meet these people, these fantastic people that you will be going through the program with, and they are movers and shakers themselves, or will become movers and shakers in the community. And we had engineers, doctors, lawyers, business people, you name it. And the great thing is you get a good mix and you get different perspectives and different strengths. So you feed off of each other's strengths, and the way the program is set up is very good. You take different people with different strengths, you put them together so they learn from each other, the cohort system, and you become that much better. And so if you're like me, you go, okay, well, this is a challenge because I'm going to try and I got to keep up with these guys, you know. You know, I want to show that I'm worthy of this program, for one thing, and I have something to share. But in turn, I also want them to, you know, because I want to learn as much as I can from them. And there's a lot of things that you would learn from just this experience, even just the residence and the field study abroad component. You learn so much that you would never get in a classroom, and you wouldn't get in just one workplace, because you wouldn't get the diversity of people and talent that you do in this program.
It's pretty amazing. You talk about Residence Weekend. We're actually having a Residence Weekend for our distance learning executive MBA program in August this year. We're not doing it in Turtle Bay anymore. It's going to be at Ko'olina. But I'm just thinking, you graduated in 2003, and we are actually going to be starting our recruiting for next year for cohort 20. It's when I started 7 years ago, as I mentioned earlier on, you are my first of many alumni from the Executive MBA program, and these are all fascinating, wonderful people. I mean, like you've always been supportive of UH, and I know that every time I have to do recruiting, I call you up, that help me out, talk to candidates about your experience, and I think sometimes it's because of the alumni experience that people buy into the program. You know, I really don't have much to do about it. I just kind of put you two together.
No, I think you're being modest, Alice. You are very good at this,
but,
and that's the reason why you are in the position you are.
Well, thank you, but it is really an honor because I see so many of you, and as I said, next year is cohort number 20, and we have about 400 of you out there. Anytime I go out, I meet them, and I guess I was asking you about one particular student from your cohort, and I actually had a chance to talk to her a couple of weeks ago when I was arranging another guest for the program. So you're all over the place, as you said, movers and shakers in the community. But bring this back to you about your memorable experience. You've talked about the Residence Weekend and now the Asia Field Study, and I know this is very close to your heart. So let me ask the control room to show the map first so you can share the experience with the audience. Okay, so you had a 3-week, I believe, Asia Field Study, and can you tell us the countries you went to and some of the things that you still remember, and I guess as you go along, I'll just have the pictures displayed on the screen.
Sure. And so it's basically we first went to Tokyo, then Seoul, then down to Bangkok, then back up to Beijing.
Doug, can I interrupt
Sure.
you first? Perhaps if you can explain to the viewers the objectives
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Asia Field
Yeah,
Study.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, the field study is basically taking a snapshot in time and meeting people, I guess influential people or people who are in the heart of the business world of each of these countries or cities. And during this trip, and it's not like it's all play, this was intense studying, and the part of the cohort program forces you to be kind of competitive and try to, okay, I got that, and I can do this and actually make it even better. So it's a mix of the executive MBAs and those very shining, stellar fish scholars, etc., from the day program. And just to give you an idea, who dominated the talk and everything, it would be the MBAs, it would be the executive MBA. And so you'd have a stack of materials, and at the time, KK Seo, a fantastic professor, well-connected, head of the program, was the driving force, and he would take us out. And so we would be doing discussions in the airport. 25 to 35 people gathered around, people looking, passers-by saying, "What is that?" And it's intense. It's intense talk. And KK would say like, "Okay, you better have at least 3 good questions when we get to that next factory or whatever to ask." And I don't want to hear stuff like, how many employees do you have in your company? It better be some media. And so you're thinking, okay, gosh, I better. And we had all the reading material, and you would engage with whoever it was. And these people were embassy officials, CEOs of companies like Seiko Instruments, and plant managers for Hyundai, etc. They're very frank with us. They would answer questions, stuff that, I wouldn't think anybody in the general population would be able to hear or understand. And so it gives you a good understanding of where they're coming from and how they perceive their businesses. Just a fantastic way to approach things. You really see it hands-on. And when you do tactile, visual, and all senses educate or learning, that's the best, because obviously from what I have, it's ingrained in my brain, and I've used it in all along until now. It's been a tool for me to be able to converse with people from other countries, different levels of business.
Yeah, going back to, I guess, the field trip faculty, Dr. Seo, he has a fascinating background too. I think he was born in North Korea, and then it was over 40 years ago that he came here, but he is so well connected in Asia.
Yes.
He actually wrote a book about a Korean steel manufacturer, and I think that steel manufacturer is the 4th largest global manufacturer in the world. He still come to the university, to the college every day, even though he's retired, and I think he's in his 80s. But
Yes, the man can't help himself, but he is. That's why he is awesome. He is who he is. And I think it's Pohang Steel, I think is the one. We visited the steel. It was incredible. His access to these companies and his connections, the rapport he had created, incredible. Just incredible.
Correct, yeah. Maybe we can ask the control room to show the second image of Tokyo, and maybe you can tell us a little bit why the trip was arranged in such a way that you went to Japan first, and then Korea, Thailand, and then China.
So the idea, I think, I never confirmed this, but from my perspective, it was so we get a snapshot of each of these economies and hear firsthand what their status or how they were doing. It's sort of like just reading their health, I guess, at the time, and understanding how they do business, globally. Or again, because we're from Hawaii, and their perspective was, okay, well, these Americans, we will show them, assist them in understanding how we do business. Relative to their business. So we go to Tokyo, and Tokyo you'd see as advanced, in terms of industrialization. It's one of the world powers. But if you look back at Tokyo, back in the post-war II, it was poor. I remember growing up, everybody saying, oh, if it says made in Japan, it's cheap, it's not good, right? And now you look at it, you go, whoa, if it's made in Japan, it's quality, right? And so going from zero respect basically to build up over the years their market share. And I think at the time we were in this program, they had the #1 market share in 1,000 different products. So we had all this info, and this is the kind of info you would get through the program, and KK Sale would make sure you got it. But so then you look at it as a snapshot. You say, okay, Tokyo's here. It's matured. It's it has its space, and now it's got to figure out or redefine itself. I think Peter Drucker had said, the problem they're facing now is underpopulation. Nobody. Right. So they're going to probably need to count on immigrant. The immigrant influx, or bring in outsiders, which is really not their cup of tea. Yeah. And then you compare that to China or India. It's basically, they're starting from scratch, and they need to build up. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you look at Tokyo, then you go to Korea, and you say, okay. So
can I have image 3, please?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry. So I think it's Taiwan, one of the business areas. Okay. And so we visited there, and I realized, okay, just before we had visited, FIFA, the World Cup had been held. And so, and previous to that, I think the Seoul Olympics preceded by about 4 or 8 years. But prior to the Seoul Olympics, as I understand,
and that was in 2000.
What's that?
I forget.
Geez, the FIFA was 2002, and so Seoul Olympics I think was 19. I can't remember.
Late 90s, yeah.
92, 96.
Okay.
So, and thinking, back then I remember when I was working at the hotel and stuff, people would say, wow, you want cheap eelskin wallets and stuff? Seoul, you want overnight suits? You get them in Seoul, you want cigars, or and I said, that's the place because it's cheap. And so you go, oh, it's like Hong Kong, right? So Hong Kong was really, I thought, okay, well then that means as you're looking at these snapshots, where are these economies in time, in their growth? And so Seoul was becoming or striving to become like Tokyo or Hong Kong. So previous to Seoul becoming that, hey, get all your fashion stuff from Seoul, it was Hong Kong, right? Correct. Yeah, you go to Hong Kong, you can get the overnight suits. I mean, it still is, but then the pricing and stuff, it goes up because labor costs, etc. As you industrialize or become more modernized, then you have to deal with unionization, etc., and higher costs. So we move one more over to.
Before you go on to Thailand, when you went to Korea, Hyundai, Samsung, were they there?
They were there. Oh, they were strong, and but not as powerful. I think they didn't have the name that they have now, or and I think part of it was the quality and the questions of quality. But they were forced to reckon with at that time, and now as you see how they've grown, I think quality-wise and everything, yeah, I've got my LG, my Samsung. I had at my previous place Samsung washer. 10 years, 15 years, I wouldn't have. I got to admit, I wouldn't have touched it. It would have been, Whirlpool, Panasonic, and Sony, but. Nowadays.
And you see the Hyundai vehicles all over, and they are as good as some of the Japanese vehicles, right?
And part of the reasoning as I see it, is, well, they knew how to market it, and they said, okay, we'll just make as many of these cars as we can and figure it out, but what we'll do, if we lose any market share to quality, we'll fix that by offering that 100,000-mile, 10-year warranty, and that's what they did. And
That's right.
you know, it worked, because as they made their products better, it doesn't matter if it's 100,000 mile or 10-year warranty, because it won't break down that much, and you're not spending money on taking back cars. And
That's right. Fascinating.
it is.
So now let's move on to image for Thailand. So we've talked about Tokyo, we've talked about Seoul, South Korea. So now your next destination is
Yes,
Bangkok.
Thailand, Bangkok. And this is one of the garment factories. And I think that's silk, if I'm not mistaken. But when we visited there, again, through KK Sales connections, we wanted this huge import-export garment manufacturer. He comes and he spoke to us real frankly. He said, you know, our costs are going up, etc. And so what ends up happening is we end up going. I ordered one suit and 2 pairs of pants. You know, and we learned all the different qualities, 120 weave, right, threads per inch, I guess, etc. And it was fantastic. Overnight, they'll bring it to your hotel, size you up. If there's any adjustments to be made, they'll take it back, make the adjustments, and you'll have it, you know, in 2 days, if not 1 day. But this is how Hong Kong and Seoul had been at pricing-wise too. It was incredibly cheap. And so I said, okay, well, now it looks like Thailand is competing and is at that stage that Seoul and Hong Kong had passed already. And so this gentleman who owned this company said, yeah. I said, well, so what are your concerns right now? He says, unionization costs, they're going up and everything. And I said, so who's knocking on your door behind, whose steps do you hear behind? And of course, China.
Let's show the final image, image 6, please. So you went to Beijing, and of course, when we were talking about it yesterday, you were we thought about the cyclists. I remember when I went back many years ago, there were only cyclists. I mean, there were very few cars. Tell me what your experience was like.
So this is in 2002, and a friend of mine was there working with as a consultant, helping set up fitness centers because they were gearing up for what they thought was they were going to get the Olympics in 2004. They didn't. Went to Sydney, and then they got the 8. But at that time, my friend, he said, "This is incredible." Like he said, you know, 2-3 years ago, this was all bikes, right? When we got there, there were tons of cars. I mean, just traffic jams and stuff. And my friend said, "Yeah, you know, you never had this. It was all bikes." And there were still, when we got there, tons of bikes. But the automobile was, numbers-wise, not as much, but it was incredible. And I can't imagine what it is now. They may be worse traffic than Honolulu.
Yeah, I actually saw pictures of it, but if control room, could you pull up the Beijing skyline for me? I didn't look at the. Yeah, there were pictures of congestion, but I guess Beijing right now is like any other cosmopolitan city. But now with this trip, you're saying that earlier on that it's very ingrained in your perspective about globalization. But then going back to what you do now at Queen's, how do you use some of the things you've learned from the Asia Field Study, from the EMBA program, and apply it to your work?
I guess it's almost second nature, and so sometimes on the business end, we'd have conversations with unnamed people on the other side or entities, and knowing, and some of these they'll come from the mainland or you know, Japan or wherever, and I draw on what I understood or what I got from this, and you know, part of it is from studying in Japan too, but a lot of it is from what I go. Okay, I kind of figured out where he's coming from or she's coming from, and what their goal is here in these discussions, and that is a huge, I don't know if you call it an advantage, but it's a huge help. Because then you know where you're headed or where they want to go to, and then you can deal with them. And it's become second nature. And I'll give you an example actually for a conference that I attended in Vegas for the International Council of Shopping Centers. And this council, all the big players, GGP, the guys who own Ala Moana, etc., are there, and give you the scales. About 25,000 people show up for this, and it's all cutting edge. In past years, they've had President Clinton speak, all incredible speakers. Steve Wynn, Mr. Vegas, and developer of Bellagio, etc. And so it was about a year, maybe the following year after the EMBA program. So we're waiting for Steve Wynn to get up and speak at this luncheon, and I'm talking with this guy. He's an engineer from Michigan, big company. He said, "Hey, I just went to China. We're working on a project there, and it was fascinating. What do you think of China?" I said, and I laid on him basically all the things that I'd learned from the field study in Asia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we're coming to a close on the program.
Okay.
So if there is one thing that you could impart on incoming EMBA program candidates, just quickly, what would your advice be for them?
Oh, be prepared.
Okay.
Be prepared, and I mean in terms of mentally, emotionally, because it is intense, but also be prepared to have one of the most interesting, maybe fulfilling experiences you'll have, education-wise, or even life journey-wise.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it's been my
and I'm sure I'll see you at the EMBA reunion in August sometime, right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you again. My guest here is Doug Inouye, Corporate Counsel and the Director of Contract Services at Queen's Health System. We've been talking about his experience at the Executive MBA program. We'll be back next week for more interesting and fascinating stories about the movers and shakers here in our island state. Stay tuned.